people did not address the first question that they responded to in terms of accidents. What happens if there is an accident involving the transportation of this powder or an on-site accident at the plant itself? I don't think that question was addressed. We recently heard about downtown Toronto. There's a building which is in the process of being demolished, which the CNSC ordered stopped because the radioactive materials that are in the building itself would come showering down on the population, and so they halted the demolition of that building because of safety concerns. Well, this building is eventually going to have to be demolished too. They've set aside $33 million for the demolition of this building eventually, but again, there's going to be a lot of radioactive contamination, a lot of radioactive dust. How do you control all that when you take the building down, even without an accident? With regard to studies about health, I do not have confidence in the CNSC on health studies because they have shown repeatedly refusal to acknowledge the best scientific advice on these matters. For example, there are 2 Ontario provincial scientific committees which recommended reducing the levels of radioactive tritium in drinking water by a factor of 350 in order to make it more compatible with other toxic materials. And the CNSC has repeatedly refused to do that lowering. So I find that they are really ignoring a lot of the health concerns. I note from the 2010 hearing that took place for the renewal of this GE Hitachi plant, they talked about radiation exposures for the workers. And they talked about, for example, here is a chart involving the whole body radiation exposure of the workers from what's called gamma radiation. Here is a chart that deals with the skin contamination from what's called beta radiation. And here is another chart which deals with the radiation of the extremities, that is the hands and the hands and the fingers of these workers. But nowhere is there any data whatsoever on the internal risk, the lung risk of inhaling this dust. And surely these workers are inhaling this dust into their bodies in small amounts. That's where the real danger is. Even in the document themselves, they say the principal hazard is inhalation of this radioactive dust, and yet there's absolutely no data on it. Not only that, but in the documents of the CNSC and GE Hitachi, they talk about gamma radiation, which is penetrating external radiation. They talk about beta radiation. There is absolutely no mention of alpha radiation, which everybody in the scientific world knows is the principal hazard here. The principal hazard is the alpha radiation, and it is about 20 times more damaging per unit of energy than either gamma or beta. And there's absolutely no mention of the word alpha, let alone any data on it. So I don't have confidence in the CNSC in really looking at
I admit you, it is more difficult to measure how informed a community is. And so are they, when you look in this one, but there are, in their license, they have 45 requirement, let's say, and I don't want to argue, I think you...
So if you will allow me, I will answer that question.
And there's constantly 24 hours a day.
Please let me answer your question.
Smoke coming into those that I rise.
Okay, so I will try to answer your question about independent monitoring and the inspection process the CNSC has in place. So when the CNSC gives a license to any facility, we don't give them a piece of paper and then come back 2 or 5 years later. We have reviewed every single one of their programs. We expect that they're implemented.
First of all, I'd like to point out that it's not just a question of being out of compliance, but in fact lying to the Commission. What Mr. Mason said was that the community is well aware of what we're doing with this plan, and that's simply not true. Also, Ravi Shankar, who is a member of the staff of the CNSC, reiterated this sentiment when he said the observed level of public interest or concern remains low. So I think we're talking not just a question of non-compliance here, but also a question of misrepresenting the facts, and I think that's very serious. That's basically
so we don't have an exit residential only? Should they have employment lands? Where should the employment lands be, etc.? All of those are you know, very, very valid points, and those are big, big discussions. And what I've also heard from everybody is, you know, the need for more information from GE, more facts. And we have committed to do that. So my commitment is going forward. Look, we're a big company. We always do the right things. We are based. Our company is based on compliance and trust. You have spoken loud and clear. So I know that's what you're saying. So get to know us.
Shut it
get
down.
To know us and let's sit down.
Here.
I hear that you don't want us there. I hear that.
If you went to a community that we want to have, everybody would say no.
Y'all people around here.
Stop it.
It's only going to get bigger.
I think that we've learned a lot from the group here in terms of the concerns that they have, and we've been listening.
GE builds nuclear arms. Let's make that clear.
How much difference that would
That's
be.
deceptive.
I know it's
That's
deceptive,
external, not internal.
but
Stop confusing the two.
I'm not confused. We are measuring fence
Secrets
line.
are external, not internal. Stop confusing the public.
Okay, I'm trying to communicate. If we want to have a scientific,
Miscommunicated.
that there's a difference.
Irresponsible.
Let him speak.
Can I finish, please? And we can have a debate. Obviously, there is a need. I don't know if this community needs to have a scientific debate. I think they want to get basic information, and it's pretty clear what their opinions. I think they have enough, you know, frankly, they do have enough information, enough people to form their own basis. So I'm not going to, you know, say you need more information, less information. If you want to form an opinion, you're allowed to form an opinion. And we going back in, there was a question from Dr. Edwards about whether GE misled the commission at a public hearing. I will take it and back in and say we will look into that.
You should already know that. You should already know.
I'm going back in, that was not our perception at the time.
You approved their license amendment for low-enriched uranium with no one in the room. No one showed up to that hearing.
Can you wait?
We all know that.
All right, let's...
He's lying. He's lying. I've seen them at hearings lie again and again. And just telling you this lie, I have to interrupt and say that that's a lie. It's all in the transcript.
Can we just try one thing? And maybe I didn't make this clear at the beginning. Is said there is a commission, which is a panel of 7 people that is appointed by the government. They make the decisions. They document their decisions in a record decision. You can go look online. There's a difference between I do make recommendations to them. Okay, so there is a difference. And their record of decisions, like in court, you can go read it. But I don't know what I was trying to, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm trying to get in, we are willing to work with the community to get the information that they want. I know, going back,
Why don't we just have a vote on it?
because, but can we, okay,